two readings that just come at you very hard, and that's what's happening to us this morning with our first reading from Genesis, Satan tempting Adam and Eve in the garden, and our gospel reading, Jesus' temptation in the wilderness. So I want to just think this morning a little bit about temptation and lessons we learn from temptation. There's a very ancient riddle that was then turned into a nursery rhyme, and I'm going to, because this thing fits so beautifully with this morning's message. This is this ancient riddle. What is it that once broken can never be repaired, not even by strong or wise persons? What is it that once broken can never be repaired, even by strong or wise persons? And the answer was turned into a nursery rhyme that we knew when we were just little children. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. And regardless of how hard we try, a broken egg can never be put back together again. Humpty Dumpty. A scrambled egg in a bowl in your kitchen can never be unscrambled. And we've got this Humpty Dumpty story this morning in our scriptures. It's Genesis. It's Genesis. It's Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and the fall. And Adam and Eve, God places Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and he gives them free will. Freedom of choice to enjoy all that God provides, and his immediate personal friendship. And they can have absolutely everything in the Garden of Eden. The only thing that they are to avoid is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This is not academic knowledge. This is knowledge in the Hebraic sense, in the Hebrew sense of intimate, personal knowledge, knowing and experiencing evil as well as good. Evil as well as good. And the tree gives a genuine choice to Adam and Eve, and they can choose to trust and obey God, or they can choose to disobey. And either way, they are exercising their own free will, which God already has given them. So in Genesis chapter 2, verse 17, well, Shannon just read to us, God helps Adam to choose the correct way by saying, in effect, Adam, if you choose your own self-rule over me, the penalty is death. Evil naturally leads to destruction. And God lovingly warns Adam of these really dangerous results. And then, just verses later, at the beginning of chapter 3, that we read this morning, the serpent comes onto the scene, Satan comes onto the scene, and as we look at this, watch for yourself, watch these realities that you and I still encounter. Satan's words and actions are very active today. Deception, temptation, twisting God's words, contradicting God, sowing doubt about God's goodness in our life, self-glorification, utter disrespect for God, entitlement. And you notice that when Satan talks to Eve, he does not do a direct frontal attack against God. He does not start a hostile argument. Instead, he uses ambiguity and suggestion and distortion and subtle nuances and spin and false news. That's what he uses. I'll give you an example. Here, just what we heard this morning. Genesis chapter 2, verse 16. The Lord God commanded Adam, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then the serpent comes, Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Serpent says to Eve, the woman, he says, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Spin. Deliberate misinformation. Twisting God's message. Sarcasm. Spinning the truth into half-truth. And see what he's doing there. Satan plants seeds of doubt of God's goodness, about God's caring for us, God's motives for us. And he plants seeds of temptation. And Adam and Eve buy it. They buy it. They buy the deception, and they choose to usurp God's authority and become their own authority, become their own God. 1 minute, they're able not to sin. And the next minute, they're not able not to sin. Sin changes trust into hiddenness and fear. And we don't have to think very far before we realize that's very true. Sin changes trust into hiddenness and fear. Changes innocence into shame. Sin takes us farther than we want to go, but we only realize it afterwards. And sin costs us more than we want to pay, but we only realize it after. And sin holds on to us longer than we want to stay, but we don't realize it till later. So we're at war with the master of sin. And for us here this morning, we can learn lessons from Adam and Eve's encounter that are very fresh and very relevant for us right here in 2020. And the first one is that temptation comes through just ordinary desires. You and I just have ordinary desires, and we can be tempted through them. And it comes through progression. We're tempted through progression. Look at first Satan. With Eve, first of all, he creates doubt. The serpent whispers to Eve so he can get what? A foothold. What he wants is he wants a foothold in her mind. That happened to you? Happens to me. You think of something and then it catches on in your mind, and you want to pursue that. And then Satan he takes the divine nature of God and he denies it. That Eve says, if we touch that fruit, we will die. Satan says, what? You will not surely die. It's a bold-faced lie. And then he blurs right and wrong. His message is, God's going to destroy your freedom. If you don't eat this food, God's going to destroy your freedom. You have the right to know right from wrong. You've got your rights. You're entitled. And he was told that God's commandment was due to God's own selfishness and his ulterior motives. In verse 5, God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God. Eve's problem wasn't what she heard. Eve's problem was that she stuck around. Eve's problem was that she lingered, she listened to it. And that's the same thing that plagues you and me today. If you hang around, if you stay, if you linger, if you listen to it, you get entangled. We sense the first pangs of temptation, and then we stick around to either consider or debate the issues in our mind with the master of deception. We need to take a lesson from Jesus. Matthew chapter 16. Do you remember Sea of Galilee? Pop into the Sea of Galilee. Up north of there is Caesarea Philippi. This is where Jesus has taken his disciples, and this is toward the end of his ministry. And Jesus says to his disciples, I am going to have to go back to Jerusalem. I'm going to have to be crucified. I'm going to have to die, and then I will be raised on the third day. I have to suffer and die, and I will be raised on the third day. And Peter takes him aside. Simon Peter takes him aside and says, Jesus, no, Lord, this shall never happen to you. See what's happening? Satan is using Peter, Jesus' good friend, Satan's using Peter. Who wants to be crucified? No human being wants to be crucified. But Jesus has seen crucifixions, and he doesn't want to go there. He knows he's going there, and he's going to do it of his own free will. But being a human being, he knows the pain and the agony he's facing. Satan's using Peter. No, Lord, this will never happen to you. No. And what does Jesus do? Jesus turns around and says, "Get behind me, Satan." But he's talking to Peter. "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me." That's what we need to do. We need to say to Satan. Let me take a page out of Jesus' book. We're free. We've got free will. And God's given us the choice to accept or reject evil suggestions. And when Adam and Eve yielded and they disobeyed, they immediately became ashamed. And they wanted to do what? Hide. They wanted to hide from God. And that's what we sometimes feel. That's our experience as well. Adam and Eve in the garden. And now we come quickly to our gospel reading. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all three synoptic gospels, talk about Jesus being tested in the wilderness and his temptation. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit, drives Jesus, leads Jesus, but really drives Jesus into the wilderness. And so what lessons can we learn from this? I think number one is that temptation often comes after a significant spiritual milestone. If you've experienced a spiritual uplift, a spiritual high, this can be a time when sometimes the devil will come and try to tempt. Jesus has just been baptized by John in the Jordan River. The Holy Spirit comes like a dove. A voice from heaven says, "This is my Son, in whom I am well pleased." That's when he goes into the wilderness, into the desert. Planning, he's thinking out what he's going to do for his ministry. How's he going to start? What's his ministry going to be like? What shape will it take? And then that's when Satan comes in. The second temptation, I think, often rears its head when we're at our lowest point, when you and I are struggling with something, when we're just struggling and we've run out of gas, we've run out of steam, and we're feeling about as low as we can be. And that's when Jesus experienced his vulnerability as well. Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. He ate nothing. Probably loneliness had taken a toll on him. Emotionally, he'd gone from the high of hearing God the Father's voice speak to him, "My Son, in whom I'm well pleased," to the low of the wilderness. Geographically, he'd left that lush bank of the Jordan River. He was out in the bone dry, silent wilderness. Physically, he was weakened by hunger, and he was in danger of temptation. So Satan attacks Jesus from three different angles. The first temptation was for Jesus to use his power selfishly. He's hungry. He's really hungry. And Satan says, "Turn stones into bread." You can do it. Go ahead, be selfish. The second temptation was a temptation for Jesus just to be a miracle worker and attract people to follow him, good, for the wrong reason. Throw yourself off the pinnacle of the temple. Boy, will you attract a crowd. Do miracles everywhere you go. You'll just attract people all over the place. Yes, you will attract people for the wrong reason. Just to see more and more miracles. Just let's have some more miracles today. And the third temptation, Satan comes to Jesus and says, "Put you on a high mountain. In your mind's eye, you're on this high mountain. And this is a shortcut. This is a shortcut to win the world." So what Satan's saying is, you don't have to be crucified. You don't have to go to the cross. I can make it easy. Here, we're on a mountaintop. You can see all the kingdoms of the world. I'll give them all to you. Just one small consideration. Bow down and worship me. You can have the works, Jesus. Take a shortcut. temptation. So in life, it's an ongoing struggle. And we know as Christians that Christianity doesn't take us out of the world of struggle. As a matter of fact, when we're trying to follow Jesus and do what we think he would want us to do, we find ourselves right in the midst of a world of struggle. And there's an important observation I just wanted to share with you, that sometimes when you're in the midst of that struggle and things are really bad for you, and it just seems going from worse to worse, that's a wilderness experience. It's a wilderness experience. And there can often be significant spiritual growth for you and me in a wilderness experience. When everything's going well, we can easily be seduced into thinking we haven't got any need for God. But in the wilderness, we have to put our trust in God. And there can be a lot of growth there, a lot of potential for growth. Temptation. It comes to everyone. Kind came to Jesus, comes to all of us. This morning, in our gospel, Satan had 3 shots at Jesus. If he had 3 shots at you, what would he tempt you with? What would really get to you? What would be your temptations? And what could help you resist these enticements to whatever those temptations are? Might be self-interest or power or spiritual pride. You fill in the blanks, whatever it would be for you. What would your temptations be? And how could you resist them? Well, let me close with just some helpful suggestions that we can use as Christians together. Number one, like the Olympics, Jesus was prepared ahead of time. He was spiritually fit. He had read and deeply ingested his scriptures. The message for us is we need to read our Bible regularly and take a passage and say, what's happening here? What's God's message to me here? Meditate on that. Think it through. Number 2, do what Jesus did to Peter. Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me. We're told that we must never have a conversation with Satan. We must never do that, ever. Do not ever even think of having a conversation with Satan. But we are told as Christians, we can say to Satan, go, now. In the name of Jesus, go. Get lost. Out. Beat it. Scram. Go. You remember in our New Testament, James, the book of James, chapter 4. Submit yourself to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And the next one, use your prayer life. Just call out to the Lord for help. Call out for help. And number 4, share your dilemma and your temptation with a friend. Someone you can trust, someone who holds the same strong Christian beliefs that you hold. Ask for help, prayer help. Ask for help to be held accountable. And number 5, just talk yourself out of it, quite literally. Have a no-holds-barred, hard-nosed talk with yourself. And number 6, just get out of there. Not walking, not sauntering. Just flee, run, get out of there. Would you hang around a room with an uncontrolled, deadly gas leak? Get out of there. And sometimes that's exactly what we do to break that bondage to a temptation. And remember, in our New Testament, 1 John chapter 4, the one who is in you, Jesus Christ, is greater than he who is in the world, Satan. Remember that. Jesus Christ, who is in you, is greater than Satan, who is in the world. The season of Lent is an invitation to walk in the wilderness with Jesus all over again this year. To take time time out as our Lord did, even though we're tempted, to take stock of our relationship with God and to grow strong through Him.